At times of the year when there's surplus grass, it's converted into silage, which is used to feed cows indoors. But in the past 10 or 15 years, there has been a big explosion in the making of silage in the form of round bales, which are situated behind us. The reason they're quite common nowadays is that you can take silage, maybe a light cut of silage, and conserve it in round bales. The bale is much lighter, dry matter, and because it gets sunshine, and some people turn it as if they're making hay, and there's less effluent, which is obviously good for the environment. A lot of farms, as you drive around the countryside, the length and breadth of the country, you see stacks of these bales. Now, they are good in their own right, but again, they can propose a threat for young children. And maybe I'll get Padraig to give you an example of what shouldn't happen on a farm. So Padraig is going to show what a lot of children around and people from the city that come out on farms, and they get a good kick out of this. So we'll watch Padraig running around the bales, and he'll also demonstrate if it happened he accidentally slipped, and if there's a hole or a space, that if he was on his own or with another child and the bales were stacked 3 or 4 high, that they could fall into a very deep ravine in between the bales, and when their parents might come looking for them, they could be severely injured or concussed in between the bales, and it would take a long time to find them because you wouldn't hear him crying for help because of the fact that they're a long way from the farmyard. So, Padraig, do a few, and I think he should have been an actor. As we're on silage, obviously, in a lot of farms around the country, you see animals around feeders like this, where you put this silage or the big round bale that we had spoken about earlier in the video into this, and the animals congregate around, and they stick their head in here and they eat their fill of grass, and they go in and lie down. Now, these implements, circular feeders, are not in use all year round, so when you're finished, it's important that they're stored properly. A lot of people leave them like this, but driving around the countryside, some people store them in a position like that, and that's grand, but it can lead to an accident. And before we'll demonstrate how an accident can happen, 2 things can happen. A young child comes in and thinks that it's great fun, and they go into the feeder and they start moving it. Or sometimes an unexpected visitor might come and there could be wind blowing and the feeder might decide to take off, and it might hit someone in the head at full speed rolling down the yard against them. Or equally, it may take off down the steep hill here to my left, and someone may be returning from the bottom of the yard after locking in animals, and the last thing they would suspect is a round feeder coming at him. If there is high wind, it can travel at high speed. So I think with the help of Padraig, who is a good volunteer here and a good demonstrator, Padraig will show you what should not be done with the round feeders when they're in the upright position. Obviously, Padraig is at an age now that obviously he can control, but picture it as to the young person. Let it, Padraig, just let it. If you can see now, if that was left on its own, it's after rolling back by itself, so you can imagine if there's wind pushing that behind, what damage that could do, maybe running into a car, or more importantly, or it could do worse damage if it fell into a young child, particularly if a child is quite young and the feeder came at him, it could maybe kill him because it could suffer brain damage. And as we're speaking on children, I've just for the sake of the video laid out a few things that could be traps on a farm, and a lot of farmers have gates stored up against walls and things like that, and we just throw the gates up against the wall, and young fellas, you know, feel that they can climb up the wall and they think to the staircase, but sometimes the kids get up here and the gate is only half thrown against the wall. Maybe the gate could go that way, or when they were climbing up on the wall, they made a big pull and you find a heavy gate falls down on the child. So it's important that if you are storing gates against the wall, that you put them in neat and tidy, and at all times tie them, so if the child did happen to climb up on the thing, at least it's not going to fall if he tries to get his leg over it and he's balancing. Gates are grand if they're hanging properly, but from time to time a gate may be surplus to requirement, and if you're storing it, be sure and tie it up. It's left in a position that's only an accident waiting to happen, and a young person comes along and he thinks this is great fun, and he climbs up the ladder, and maybe halfway up the ladder he starts playing and he thinks this is great, that he's in the fire service with Clonakilty Fire Brigade or with the surrounding fire engines, and he then walks up to the top of the wall and he says, this is great, I can now walk across the wall here and do balancing act. And as you can see that there's a drop of 8 to 10 feet here on this side, and there's a drop of 6 or 7 feet on the other side. So again, when you're finished with the ladder, return it to the workshop, or if you're under time constraints, we never go to a place that's laid on. If it involves effort, we're never going to go to the trouble of picking up the ladder. But if it's standing up, it's like a wedding invitation. It's an invitation to an accident that's only waiting to happen. So if it saves your child's life, put away the implements the minute you're finished, or else put them in a position that they won't cause an accident. Another area now with a lot of partners working away from home, which is probably the norm nowadays. You find that the farmer is at home, and obviously as well as doing his farm work, he equally has to play his role in childcare, and that results in a lot of farmers having young children around the place. And maybe to cover the whole area of young children, where you have young children on the farm, I think maybe if you can, to have a designated play area that's protected in, that if there's silage making operation or any operation, slurry spreading, that the children, you know, are safe in the confines. But probably as children get older, they get more curious and they want to see the action for themselves, a bit like Thomas in the Gospel, seeing is believing. I think it's important that you educate your child as regards the dangers before the event would happen, and just tell them to keep well back from machinery. And if there is machinery coming into the yard, just treat them that they can be extremely dangerous and advise them to keep well back from them. And as I said, a lot of people now have children around the farm, and they're maybe younger children are in national or in second level school, and they're left with a young child, maybe 4 or 5, but equally they have people helping them during the weekend. So it's important that they are, if they are going on the tractor, that there is a proper seat for them and they're not hanging over the PTO shaft in the back or hanging off the back window, where if the tractor gets a bad bump, they're going to hit the deck. And also maybe access to the tractor, it would be important maybe that you have clean steps so that you can see that these are grated for grip, so that when the farmer comes off that he doesn't slip, because if you make a slip here and you miss your step and the tractor is moving, well, your leg is going to finish up there, and we all need our legs for mobility and to get from A to B. So always make sure that your steps are reasonably clean. So I'm going to get some help from Melissa just to prove or to show that if someone is travelling on this tractor, that there's a seat for her. So Melissa has volunteered. So just wait and take it. You sit up. So as you can see that Melissa is safely sitting in a seat. Obviously probably in more modern tractors there's probably special seats with safety belts coming in, so that if you have a younger child that you can restrain them. So as we're driving along now, Melissa is not impeding the handbrake, which is important, or any of the controls. So as far as I'm concerned, she's not interfering with my driving. So Melissa, we'll shut the door and we'll take it away. a machine that's used for making silage or for topping pastures, and I'll just show you that it's important that in all implements that they're in good mechanical order, and also that all the PTO shafts have a guard on them, so that when this shaft is attached to the PTO, which is basically, I'll demonstrate that my finger is the rotating PTO shaft, is attached here, and you have your U-guard over it, which brings it out to here. So this is working like this, and this, the PTO is turning where this is stationary because it's chained on to the tractor. So if someone comes near that, you shouldn't have an accident. But some people don't have this properly attached, and as well as the PTO rotating, the guard is rotating, and it can have the same effect as having no guard there. So it's important that you have PTO guards on all your machinery. Fertilizer spinners, your mowers, anything that there's a PTO, and slurry tankers, and at all times that you're vigilant and that you don't take your eye off the ball, because where there's machinery involved, you can't be negligent, because one slip and you're dead. Okay, did you get it?
Yeah.
Obviously you can see that the animal locked herself, so she's now in a safe position that if we want to check her ear tag, or if she has to be treated with the vet, that he can walk here on this side, or if he's left-handed like I am, that he has room to walk on this side, and at each time we can open the gate here if we have to check our lungs, or if we have to take a blood transfusion, or if we had to lift our front leg, we have room to walk here and we're still safe. Okay, so that's basically it, that you have good facilities and again know what you're doing. Okay, bulls are animals that you shouldn't trust. They might be quite placid. You may rub them with your hand, but I think whatever you do, don't ever turn your back on a bull, because during certain times of the year, when the mating season is on, they can be aggressive. But when the mating season is over and they're out in the field, you know, they can time to time suffer, and they may just switch off or switch on, and before you know where you are, you could be on the ground pinned by that same bull. So it's important that if you have bulls, that you have good strong pinning, and that if the bull does turn on you and you're walking by the gate, at least that he won't break out through the gate. And the bull can be running after you, that from time to time he will step on it, and that'll pull him in the nose and slow him down if it happens that he is in attack mode. So, and also it can help you to move him from one place to the other by catching the chain, but it's important that you would have suitable a stick with you, and ideally if you can move him with a 4x4 where you are in your Jeep, and if he decides to attack, well, at least that he's only going to attack your Jeep and that you're safe inside in your vehicle. So never trust the bull, never turn your back on a bull, and make sure that the bull is always on a chain. He will still manage to he'll still be able to manage to mate the animals with the chain on, but when he's finished the mating season, he's quite safe. Well, you can never say a bull is quite safe, but it protects your life if there's a chain on him, because he will step on the chain if he's running after something. You know, he won't get the rhythm right. The chain, he will step on the chain, and that chain could save your life. Stress enough to take exceptionally great care when dealing with slurry. Slurry is a great product for our land because it replaces important nutrients like nitrogen, some nitrogen, P and K, which helps in the stimulation of grass growth, but it can be extremely dangerous when it's stored and when handle it and get it ready for spreading in the field. So be careful, because if not, it could cost you your life. Obviously animals have to be housed for the winter time and fed silage, but it's important if you are housing animals. Take for example this group of animals that are about 10 months of age are being stored in a kind of a waste product called the chipping off the trees before they go into timber planks. The waste product is recycled and can use it as a suitable bedding material, but it's important that the animals are well protected so that they don't break out onto public roads or out in front of people's lawns and do a lot of damage, but equally cause an accident if they reach the public road. And as you can see that they're well wired in with electric fence, which is creating electric shock around the place. So again, if people are coming from the city, it's important that you make them aware that there's electric current, which is not like the ESB, the plug on the wall, but it's like a pulsating current at a periodic space of maybe every 2 or 3 seconds, which keeps the animal from breaking out or going from one paddock to the other paddock, that it gives them some form of controlled grazing. So it's important that you make any visitors aware that there is electric fence on, and just be careful, because if you walked into it accidentally, you will get a bad fright. Not that you get a heart attack, but it obviously get a severe fright, and if someone had maybe heart trouble or things, it may not help his situation. And if you have a sign to display it, electric fence on, so that you can warn people. Okay? We're now entering the workshop where we store all the small implements. So we usually keep the workshop locked, particularly now with a lot of theft in the area, but also locked from a security point of view of children, that they don't wander in. So we'll move into the workshop, and I suppose in the workshop it's important that your workshop have good light, and that it's reasonably neat and tidy, and that you can see things at a glance, like timber textures, your rivets, and that you can visually see where everything is. Maybe a clean workshop makes it easier to find stuff and it doesn't take as long. Also in the workshop we have our chemicals, and it's important that chemicals, as you can see, store chemicals under lock and key, and we have all our chemicals stored inside in this press. Chemicals for herbicides, for killing dots or Roundup or any other such thing. So you can see, if you get a glance here, you have Roundup, which is a product that's used on the farm. If people are doing reseeding, they want to kill off the old vegetation. But again, if unsupervised, someone might think, this is great, this looks like lemonade, and we drink it and it's poison, and I don't have to tell you the consequences. I know of a situation in our own locality where there was weed killer stored in a lemonade bottle, and the young lad was only about 4 or 5 years of age, and he thought it was lemonade and drank out of the bottle, and as a result lost all his esophagus and had to be replaced with an artificial windpipe. And as he grew older, it had to be upgraded, because as you get older, your esophagus gets bigger, and these are just the dangers of it. So it's important that all your chemicals are stored under lock and key. This is another product, and as you can see, a big X means it's poisonous. Also, if it's not used properly, it's a danger to the environment. So if you are washing out, it's important that you dispose of the spray out of the spray, the sprayer responsibly into a tank where it won't leak into waterways. So it's important that it's under lock and key, so that if any children come into the workshop accidentally or otherwise, that it's secure. I suppose finally it's important in every farm that due to the cost of repairs, a lot of people now are doing a lot of the repairs themselves, and it's important that if you are doing a repair yourself, that you have a good workshop, that you have welders, grinders, which is to cut the metal, you have drills, and you have a lot of machinery that you can say are small tools, hand tools, but equally there's also danger attached to them. And I suppose the one item that we'll demonstrate here is there's this angle grinder, which is used for cutting metal. It's a reasonably heavy implement, but it's a very important function where it can cut steel. But before we will proceed to cut the steel, I think it's important that as a result of cutting, there could be some flying steel particles or sparks, or the knife damage with the high volume of knives coming out of it. So it's important that we wear the proper equipment. So it's important you wear earmuffs, and also that you wear protective glasses to protect your eyes, because you're blessed with two good eyes, and the last thing you want is to damage them.